Today I want to talk to you about the strategies that can lead to a more successful life. Now, we all might have different ways that we define success, whether that's financial, vocational, relational, or emotional. And I believe it's important to define that first before you begin to even apply these strategies that we discuss, because all of us have unique backgrounds, experiences, expectations, and beliefs when it comes to what we want to do and achieve in our lives. Therefore, when we look at these strategies, I'm hopeful that it will help make a positive impact in framing the reference point when you're looking at achieving these goals and finding yourself leading a more successful life. The first strategy I'd like to share with you is choosing to live life with a proactive perspective. Now, life is full of all sorts of uncertainty. There are various areas of our lives that we simply cannot control, ranging from macroeconomics to geopolitical conflicts, all the way to how someone else drives on the road to even how your coworker treats you on a daily basis. And these external circumstances sometimes have an outsized effect on how we approach our day-to-day lives. I believe if we take an approach where we're reactive and the world is happening to us, it can unfortunately put a perspective on us where we're allowing the world to define who we are. Then we fall into a trap where we say, this is all that I am, or that's the way things are going to be, or I will never change. We begin to adopt a mentality that the world projects onto us. And if we maintain that reactive approach, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, I have a bit of an instance I'd like to share with you in this. I previously served as the elected city clerk for the city of Oceanside, California. Now, right before I was elected, that position paid about $120,000 a year. After I was elected, the position then became cut down in its pay to $20,000 a year with all of the same full-time responsibility. Now, at that moment, I had a choice to make. Could I choose to make a mentality where I'm going to say, no, I'm not going to do that? Well, no, I chose to actually move forward in that position, understanding that I had done so to be a public servant and to serve my community, but also realizing I wasn't going to get stuck in that trap, because I knew if I applied myself, gained further education, experience, and credentials, I could go and find and achieve another position that did pay that level so that way I could provide for my family and to be fulfilled vocationally. So I worked diligently, took a proactive approach every single day, and ultimately achieved what I was seeking to do and got appointed as a city clerk, now earning a six-figure salary outside in a different city. So what I would suggest is that as you approach your life, whether it's in business, relationships, finance, or some emotional perspective that you're trying to adopt, what I would encourage you to do is to be proactive, because that's where you and I are beginning to take the reins of our life and being able to step forward with confidence, boldness, and in a way where we can actually chart our own course. Now, the second strategy I'd like to share with you is to identify your North Star. Now, North Star is a nautical term, and what it was basically back in the day, if someone was on a ship, they could understand where true north was by identifying the brightest star in the sky, also referred to as the North Star. And if you and I in our personal lives can identify what our North Star is, meaning what our goal is, what our destination is, it allows us to chart our course accordingly. Now, I believe it's important to not only identify your North Star, but to identify the internal compass that is driving you in that direction. What is motivating you to pursue that goal? And if you have the improper motivation, sometimes it can get you off course. So if your focus is primarily focused on power, popularity, pleasures, or possessions, those are not inherently bad things altogether, but I believe if that's the only reason why you're pursuing this particular goal, it's something you should question right out of the gate. And instead of focusing on those four things, I believe it's important to focus on the principles behind why you're doing something. So I just want to offer encouragement to you, whether you're trying to pursue a relationship, whether you're trying to pursue a vocational outcome, whether you're pursuing something in your business, whatever it might be, if you have the motivation inside, the true North Star set, and you're being proactive and taking that approach every single day, it will lead you to a successful outcome, and that outcome might be different than what you define as success right out of the gate, but if you allow for that grace and flexibility, you never know what the world might provide you with. So I just want to offer you that encouragement when it comes to identifying your true North Star. Now, the third strategy I'd like to share with you is to prioritize the important over the urgent. Now, we just discussed how important it is for us to be able to approach life with a proactive perspective and to identify our true North Star. Now, what I want to talk about is how do you chart your course and not get sidetracked and allow other things to distract from the goals that you have set in your own personal life. Now, I believe this is critical because it's very easy to get distracted in our society. We are bombarded with information, bombarded with responsibilities, bombarded with pressure, and it can very well overwhelm individuals and prevent us from pursuing the dreams that you might have. So what I believe is very critical is that if you want to be successful, whether that's in business, in finance, in relationships, or emotional or physically successful, you have to identify and prioritize what is important versus what is urgent. Now, the fourth strategy I'd like to share with you is to create mutually beneficial scenarios. Now, we live in a very competitive society, whether it's in sports, business, finance, or relationships. We find ourselves constantly competing against others, and that mentality leads us to believe that everything is a zero-sum game. Now, my encouragement to you is to understand that we can create win-win scenarios or mutually beneficial scenarios in pretty much everything that we do. Imagine the next time you're in a business meeting or you're trying to land a client, if you can create a scenario where that's actually going to be benefiting them and benefiting yourself, then everyone walks away a winner and everyone is properly motivated to produce at the highest level possible. Imagine in a relationship, if you were in a zero-sum game, if you're in an argument with your spouse, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, or anything to that extent, if you're constantly trying to win that argument and you're trying to belittle the other person and take from that person, it's really never going to end properly. I can speak personally to this. Whenever my wife and I have had disputes or discussions where we were on opposing sides, I have found that if we try to go at it from an approach where we're trying to take the other person down and we're trying to win the argument, then the other person is never really going to benefit from that. They're only going to feel bad, which then hurts our broader relationship as a whole. So my encouragement is to actually approach things from a win-win or a mutually beneficial mentality. Now, if you and I can adopt that mentality, even though it is counterintuitive, what we're truly saying is that we believe it's important to value the other person or the other business or the other industry that you're working with. And I believe that can really change things in your own life. Instead of viewing things from a scarcity mentality where we're just trying to win and take something from someone else, we adopt a mentality where we are trying to be mutually beneficial in helping the others. And I believe there's a true saying that many people have heard before, but it's do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I personally believe that that saying rings true cross-culturally. It has no bounds, and I believe it to be true in my own personal life, that the more you can help others, the more you can create scenarios where it's beneficial for them and beneficial for you, it makes everyone else successful, and it leads to a more positive society and ultimately a more positive result. The fifth principle I'd like to share with you is to master the art of listening. Now, communication is essential in our society, it's essential in our relationships, essential in our businesses, and we are constantly communicating, whether that's via social media, interpersonal communication, or written communication. However it might look in your life, communication is something that is happening on a constant basis. And I believe that if you and I have the ability to master the art of listening, it really positions us in a way where we can be successful because we are actually understanding the other individual we are communicating with. So in going through this, there's actually a principle that is a little bit deeper behind this, and it says the following: be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Because what happens often in our communication is that we begin to prescribe a solution before diagnosing a problem. We begin to hear someone communicate and we immediately jump on the first thing they say, and instead of us taking the time to hear what they're saying, we're trying to inject our opinion and inject our perspective and not allowing ourselves to understand what that person is trying to communicate. And this can be all the more complicated when you're texting with someone, when you're on social media with someone, and if you're not in person with someone. But I would just encourage, the more that we can master the art of listening, the more successful we can be. This is something that's personally been true in my life, in business, in finance, in relationships, in politics, in a variety of spheres of influence that I've had the opportunity to serve in. I've found that the more I can listen, the more I can learn, and the more that I can effectively communicate back to the person and try and help them develop whatever they're trying to do, but most importantly, try to have a meaningful conversation with them. Now, this requires a paradigm shift in our thinking because it requires us to think about the other person first instead of ourselves first. And our natural tendency, my natural tendency, is to be more self-focused in how I'm communicating, even in this instance right now as I'm communicating to you. So if you actually would like to communicate more with me in this particular instance, feel free to comment down below. I'd love to engage a bit more in a dialogue with anyone who's watching this right now. But furthermore, mastering the art of communication really starts with understanding how to listen clearly and concisely to someone and take the time to first understand where they are coming from, because if you take that step first, then it allows us to then be understood. Now, the last strategy I would like to share with you is to live a life of balance and moderation in everything that we do. This is a strategy that I have employed since I was a teenager, and it applies to everything in life, and specifically in these categories: physical, spiritual, mental, and social. And what I have found that the more balance that I can have in these various areas of my life, the more set up for success I am in how I approach every single day. So what does balance and moderation look like from a physical perspective? Well, it looks like having a proper balance of exercise and eating properly, not getting overwhelmed and doing things too intensely in one way, shape, or form, but having proper balance. From a spiritual perspective, it's important to take time, I believe, to meditate every single day. Now, meditation can look very different from various perspectives. Whether you take time to meditate, you take time to pray, you take time just to be still and be quiet, whatever it looks like for you, I believe it's really important to take time spiritually to refresh yourself every single day, so that way you're grounded and you're able to take every single step into that day with a proper guiding, directing focus in your spiritual self. Now, shifting over to the mental component of balance and moderation, I believe that if we take the time to engage ourselves every single day in something meaningful, whether that's taking time to read an engaging book in order to hear, very uplifting or encouraging music, whatever it looks like for yourself, engaging in some challenging task, whatever you can do or I can do on a daily basis, it allows ourselves to be more mentally engaged and have a proper approach in how we take every single day moving forward. Now, when it comes to the social aspect of having balance and moderation, I believe it's important to invest in developing relationships that are important to you. Whether that's relationships with a significant other, friendships, or even on a broader perspective, having a relationship with your community, investing in it in some way, shape, or form where you're able to contribute into that relationship. And that's where meaning and power can come from. Because I personally believe that we were designed as social creatures, that we want to actually engage with other people, engage with our community, engage with our society in order to make a positive impact in our world. It's one of the driving forces behind why I'm creating these videos right now, because I want to do what I can to make a positive impact in your life and help in the areas that I believe have helped myself. Now, a quick recap of the strategies to a successful life. First, we talked about the importance of living life with a proactive perspective. Then we talked about the importance of identifying your true North Star and finding out what the internal compass is that is driving you in that direction. We also discussed prioritizing what is important in our lives versus what is urgent in our lives. We also discussed the importance of creating mutually beneficial scenarios and mastering the art of listening, all in order to live a life of balance and moderation. So I am hopeful that these strategies will help you in pursuing a successful life. Whatever that definition is for you, whatever your true North Star is, my encouragement to you today is that these strategies, I hope, will be able to help set you on that course and help you achieve what you're hoping to achieve in your life today in order for you to be able to be even further along tomorrow. So I really appreciate you taking the time to listen to this video today. If you wouldn't mind liking this video, it would actually really help me for the YouTube algorithm, and I'd be very appreciative if you would reciprocate that and help me by liking this video. Furthermore, if you'd like to comment and share any of your stories, any of your goals, your dreams, or aspirations, or if you have any other questions for me, I would be honored to share that with you and engage in that dialogue. And lastly, if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I'm going to create more content on an ongoing basis, touching a variety of topics. And if you have any content that you would specifically like me to create, feel free to comment. I'd be more than happy to create a video for you. So I thank you so much for taking the time today. I look forward to hearing from you. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful remainder of your day.